the final English gentleman.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah. It's a revered piece for a revered broadcaster.
Terrible. Just a broadcaster. I've been broadcasting a long time. Nothing revered about me at all. I just keep doing it.
You're part of a great line of broadcasters. I mean, that's of course. I mean, if there is aristocracy in television,
there is not. You know that well enough.
This is true. Let's talk about this new series of yours, because it's fascinating. It's just a look at 1,000 years of history, and it's a look at what the buildings, the architecture of the various times tell us about it. You spent a year doing this. At the end of that year, were you aware of how little you'd looked at buildings before it?
The sheer pleasure of going around Britain and paid to do it and looking at buildings that you haven't seen it's just magic. And I find now I sort of walk into lampposts because I'm always looking at buildings. You know, I go down a street and I'm thinking, where's that window? Oh, that's rather a nice roof. That's a good chimney. You know, and I'm very switched on to it in a way. I mean, I've always liked buildings, yes, but I'm much more switched on to it now.
But you don't look at them, do you? I mean, John Betjeman, who you mentioned 2 or 3 times in the book, which accompanies and on the series too. I mean, I once walked down Fleet Street with him, and he kept saying to me, "Look up, young man, look up. The view's up there." And of course, when you do that, when you stand and look up, then you see the building for what it is.
The paving stones are so uneven, you do it at your peril.
But it is interesting, isn't it, that we do pass buildings by.
But you see, high streets and city streets are all designed to stop you looking up.
Yes, they are.
Because every window is a shop window with, you know, things on display, special offers and all that. And if you watch people walking down, apart from looking at each other, do you look at people in the street? Do you look at people in the street?
Yes, of course.
I mean, do you look them in the eye? Say, hello? No?
Yeah, I'm not trying to freak them out or anything, but I do look at them.
But if you're walking down the street and you're doing that, you don't see the buildings above. And yet almost everywhere, if you look up, you'll see great buildings.
But what's interesting about it is, I mean, staggeringly beautiful places, like Ely Cathedral, for instance, where you start. Yeah. You start there because you say this was the start of modern architecture in Britain. This is exactly where it started. 1,000 years ago, they built this wonderful building to God. And you look at it nowadays, I've never been there, and you think, God, oh man, that is absolutely extraordinary. Yes. I mean, 1,000 years ago, they built this. They couldn't do it now.
What we were trying to do, they couldn't do it now. No, of course they couldn't. What we were trying, well, they can repair it now. They're restoring it, and the people restoring it, who when I was there were doing the East Front high up, and they were making gargoyles, carving them. They'll never be seen by anybody. You know, they go right up in the top there, like the Normans did. But the people who built, and that's what interests me. It's not the architecture as such. I'm not interested in, you know, this person built this building, this person built that, a kind of student study of architecture. I'm interested in who wanted this building built and why.
Yes.
The Norman castles. Why were the Normans so determined to crush us Vikings? You're an Irishman, I'm a Viking.
Okay.
And when the Normans came over, they took all our land. I mean, we admittedly had raped and pillaged for 500 years before, so we had it coming to us. They took all the land. They brought the French in. You know, they built all the castles, had never been in Britain before. They built the cathedrals, there'd never been cathedrals before. They put their stamp on the country, and it was a mixture of religious observance, but also the mailed fist, the power, both of the church and the king.
That determined the architecture of that period.
And the architecture, see, I mean, when they first came, it's very interesting, they couldn't really build in a skilled a way as they wanted, because the Anglo-Saxon builders weren't up to it, but gradually they trained them up. And it's, I mean, Ely is just, I'd never been into it either before we did that. It's just magical.
The other thing, too, of course, is that another building that was built about 3 centuries later was King's College, Cambridge.
Yes. 9 Lessons and Carols.
That, again,
Scene of, yes.
Is wonderful.
Yes.
And let's have a look at the way that this building kind of affected you. You try to sum up the beauty of this building. Let's have a look at this.
It's so beautiful. It's just what the builders wanted, to make it look like a dream, so you didn't believe it was real.
And that's a building built
I think the pink shirt's a bit bold. You know why I wear the pink shirt?
No.
It's the only way you can be seen if you're being filmed walking down a street in Manchester in February. If you wear a pink shirt, you stick out. So
Did you do research on this?
No, but I did it in blue, and they said, you've got to go and get a brighter shirt. So I went and got a pink shirt, and then I got these pink socks to go with it. Now I'm landed with these forever.
You are indeed. They're on the cover of the book as well.
There's a zebra.
I think I've got a new pair since the book, actually. The book looks scruffy. They're also down right. Let's just talk then. I mean, you mentioned there the gargoyles on top of the Ely Cathedral.
Yes.
And what you did there was you actually went up there and with a stonemason, you put in there a time capsule. Tell us the choice of stuff you put in the time capsule.
Well, the idea of a time capsule, originally masons just used in the Middle Ages to put coins and leave them there. When I went to Ely, I found a time capsule that had been put there for the millennium in the floor of the nave. And it seemed to me so dry and dull. It was the minutes of some collegiate meeting and this and that. And the builder said, well, why don't you put your own time capsule up at the top? And I said, well, when will it be seen? He said, well, next time the cathedral's restored, maybe 300 years from now. So I thought, well, what will people know about us 300 years from now? And the answer is almost everything that's on the computer they'll know about. So we must try and do some things to confuse them a bit. So I had a little box, and my first choice was a packet of cigarettes. Because I thought 300 years from now, with smoking fascism taking hold, nobody will know what a cigarette is. They'll look at this thing and they'll say, what's this funny little stick with all these shreds of leaf in? So I put in a packet of cigarettes. I put a Mars bar. Don't ask me why. I don't know why I put... I don't know.
There must have been a reason for a Mars bar in there.
Once in the middle of a general election programme, Robin Day was stopped in the middle of an interview, and he hated being stopped. Because Mrs. Thatcher, I think it was getting out of her car. You know how in elections every little thing helps, you know. Mrs. Thatcher's getting out of her car. We must go to it, David, go to it. And I was just taking a break while Robin was doing his interview to eat this Mars bar, and I couldn't speak because have you ever eaten a Mars bar? My teeth were jammed together with this Mars bar. And I said, bad for the BBC, I'm sorry, I'm eating a Mars bar. And ever since then, I've been stuck with this idea of Mars bars. But I thought, anyway, Mars bar would represent where we'd all be going on holiday in 300 years' time, Mars. And then we got a shopping list. We stopped a man outside a supermarket, and we got his week's shop. And I put that in because I thought one of the things that always interests people about the past is how they spent their money, what you bought, what the household goods were. And then I put the television listings in because I thought it'd be very salutary, Big Brother, things. I took the day's television listings and put them in, and I thought 500 to 300 years from now, people would say, what were they watching?
I have to say, if I was the chance to fill a locked, airless box that may or may not ever be opened, I'd stick Jade Goody into it.
It's interesting and...
Or better yet, given that we're probably going to make the polar bears extinct, put a polar bear in there with Jade Goody to chew on.
It's interesting too. I mean, you're now back to Question Time, of course, now after your little trip around the country. And
a little moment of freedom travelling around the country.
Right. And now
actually, it's back to travelling around the country because Question Time. One of the things about Question Time is it goes around all the time, and that's how I get to see some of these places.
A new Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, not a fan of the show, not been on it.
I expect he's a real fan. He just doesn't want to come on it.
But what's interesting about the two of you, of course, is the use of audience, isn't it? Because, like Dara used an audience, so do you. I mean, the audience is a crucial part, David, of yours.
Yes.
It really is.
Question Time is nothing but an audience and a panel.
Yes.
I mean, the chairing of it is just making that relationship
And the politicians are wary of it because they face the public.
It's one of the... You see, in the Victorian era, people would regularly go and speak to a big audience like this. They'd go and talk, they'd expect to be heckled and shouted at, and they'd argue the toss and all that. Now, it's all become so sanitised, so carefully thought out, that the number of politicians who'll do that is not that great. I admire the ones who do, and who take it on the chin. I mean, the Tories, when Major was in difficulties, who took it on the chin. Labour, when Blair's in difficulties, who'll just come and fight their corner. That's how politics should be done. Because, you know, if you can't convince the public, the voter, about what you're doing, if you have to sit protected by your spin doctors and by, you know, giving stories to the press and leaking this and leaking that, that's not doing politics properly.
Well, it's not doing democracy any good at all, of course. It's exactly wrong. Has it changed in all the years you've been reporting on politics, covering politics? I mean, has it got worse?
It's very difficult. I think, I mean, my starting point is that politicians have the most terrible job in a democracy. To get elected and then to pursue policies to improve education, to improve the national health, all that is not easy. I think the mistake that we've seen, particularly in the last decade, is politicians raising hopes too high by, well, in Blair's case, by sort of pretending that this had been done and that had been done. And I remember the very first day he was elected, and I was doing the commentary for the election. And in the morning, on Friday, he came into number 10 Downing Street, where Mrs. Thatcher had been in '79. And when she arrived, there were no gates, because the IRA hadn't yet disturbed things quite to that extent.
I wasn't
No, I know. I wasn't
in any way affiliated to the organisation, by any means you can...
Exactly, you would never have been their press officer or anything.
Not
like
in any way, no.
But she came in, and there was a genuine crowd there, and she made a speech and went into number 10. The gates have gone up, Blair goes in, and there's a crowd there, all waving the Union flag. And I discover that this is entirely a ticketed Labour Party crowd brought down from Millbank. So I say this, and a voice in my ear, editor or producer or something, says, "Steady on, David, steady on, this is a great moment." And I thought, great moment? This is not a great moment. This is a contrived moment. It may be, you know, people are very excited by the change, but it's that ability to pretend things aren't as they really are that I think is so dangerous. And to want to go on doing that seems to me to be doing us all a bad turn. But I don't know what Gordon Brown will be like. I mean, people, you know, it's a very exciting moment to have a new Prime Minister, completely unknown to us, really.
And a young, vigorous leader of the Tory party, too.
Who may be falling into the same trap as Blair if he's not careful.
So? Yeah.
Well, if he's not careful, you know, I mean, he's got a big job to do because he's got to persuade the electorate that the Tories are not as they once were, but are changed and all that. But, of course, the danger is that we're all a bit bored by the show, the display. But, you know, you imagine being a politician. You imagine trying to appeal to, you know, 35, 40 million voters and sitting all the time worrying about, have we got the message across? Are we doing it right? It's not that easy. I mean, they say, you know, Brown, who was done no favours, frankly, by Tony Blair talking about his clunking great fist. I mean, the last thing Gordon Brown wants to be seen as coming into office is as a clunking great fist. He's going around the country talking to little children, and we hope not frightening them. I don't know. But you know, I do take my hat off to them because I respect the instinct to become a politician. I don't always respect the manoeuvrings, but I do understand the astonishing difficulty of just getting the political point across and understood.
All right. Well, David Dimbleby, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much.